major marketers from 7 to 27. That is a pretty big move. So we've seen the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited raising the number of major oil marketers in a document that was obtained by a correspondent that saw um, the decision to upgrade these 20 oil companies and filling stations to the major oil marketers category, being the first in over 25 years.
So they've done it. They've done it. I don't know. I'm not too excited about it. Considering the fact that part of the workout of yesterday was to queue for fuel, and
But this, they say, is in a bid to stop those queues.
see, I'm a bit weary of sounding like the Grinch that is coming to bust everybody's bubble. But further down in the story, there's a kidney that the firms will now get products directly from the NMPC at regulated prices of 148 naira per liter.
Considering the fact that most of them have been, in fact, all of them have been complaining about getting prices from the depot prices going up much higher than the
So
pump
what that
price.
tells me is that NMPC will still be sole importer, which has been the case for the past 7 years, which means that the system will still break at some point. Because these regulated prices of 148 naira per liter is still, what it says is that the subsidy, which is the problem, is still there. That's
For
the
the
issue.
next 7 months.
Whether it's the next 7 months or 10, the point is they haven't solved the problem. That's the point. This is the classic Nigerian thing of kicking the can down the road for somebody else to solve.
Cheta, what I'm going to ask you now is, I feel like we have seen the end of the road, both on the federal government side and NPC, both coming out say next year June is the end of the road.
So the
So
way
stopgap
does the
measures.
current government have the right to make decisions for the next government?
Well, they can make decisions within their tenure.
Decisions that should
Will affect the
that
next
no
government.
so normally they can make decisions that will affect the next government, but then to make a decision to start being implemented when the next government comes in,
Mm.
that's where it's problematic. There's a slight difference between making a decision. So consider the fact that you are about to end, you are not coming back. So why not just bite the bullet and make a decision for the best interest for the rest of us? Instead, you are using it to play politics and set a time bomb for the next government.
Now, Cheta, that would be a
And my
question that
oh
I
yeah,
want to ask, considering the fact that in the mix for the next administration, at the party to in charge of the next administration is also this same APC. Why would you? What would you? What do you think about that? In terms of, are you saying that they're also setting up a time bomb for their own party?
yeah, I mean, I remember I've said it so many times. Their party is a special purpose vehicle, not a party. And if their party or their nominal party wins this election, then it is another faction of their party that is actually coming to power. So power is still changing hands regardless. So the truth is, whether it is Tinubu, Atiko, or Obi that wins in 2 months' time, in just over 2 months' time, the whoever comes in is going to have a rough time of it. And that is so you can see that we have shifted from the actual problem or from the problem of the petrol scarcity that is currently happening
Mm.
into politics, because in the end it is a political problem. This petrol crisis that we're facing is not an economic problem, it's a political problem.
Well, I feel like the problem needs to get solved at some point.
Yeah, the problem gets solved by allowing marketers go out and buy and sell at market prices.
All right. Well, listen, Cheta, the body language and the actual language we've seen and heard from this administration
They
shows us
haven't
that
said a
nothing
word.
is going
Yeah, they
to
haven't said
happen.
that. I mean, starting from the Minister of Petrol, he doesn't care. He doesn't give a flying hoot.
Does he remember his minister of petrol? That would be the question I would ask, because I'm not sure we seen the president in his capacity as Minister of Petroleum Resources say anything, or has he always been Minister of State for Petroleum Resources that we've heard from? So does the president even
The
remember?
best description of this man is that picture whoever published of him picking his teeth.
We move on from the Business Day, number of Nigerian nurses in UK up 25% in 6 months. This is according to the latest mid-year register of the Nursing and Midwifery Council. The number of nurses, midwives, and nursing associates from Nigeria grew to 1,670 as of September this year. It's the highest in 5 years from 1,344 in the same period of 2021, according to new data. Cheta, what?
Um, Sad as it speaks to a crisis both in the UK and in Nigeria, and there is a crisis in the UK. They are
Part of
losing.
the great mass resignation
Yes, they
was
are losing a
nurses.
lot of nurses.
Hmm.
So their NHS is is really strained. It's under a lot of strain. So they when their NHS is under a lot of strain, there are things like the red list that they have, which include countries like Nigeria, suddenly becomes just a paper suggestion, and then it meets with the interest of nurses in Nigeria, who in many cases simply want to bug off because they are poorly paid, conditions of work are horrible, and the leadership of the Ministry of Health clearly does not care. So this is a case of Peter has 10 naira, Paul wants 10 naira, and you are telling Paul he should not go to this thing. It's not going to happen. Now, having said that, from a Nigerian perspective, it's a tragedy. We are bleeding people, and not just in the health sector, across board. We are bleeding people, and I think the real tragedy of the Japa syndrome, the talent during that we are seeing, is the fact that um, unlike in previous migration waves, so part of the problem, and I've written extensively about this. So let me try and recap very, very sharply. Nigeria has had four great waves of migration. This is number four. The difference between this one and the other three is that in the past, our education sector could generate enough qualified or skilled people to fill in the gaps. With our economy has never generated enough jobs to take care of the graduates, to absorb all the graduates that we churn out. So Nigeria has always been a net exporter of people.
Hmm.
But in the past, our education sector could fill the gaps that were opening up with skilled people. Now it no longer can. The education sector has collapsed to the extent that it no longer can. So these gaps that are opening up will only widen, they'll become more apparent. And that is when we'll enter serious trouble.
So at this point, a question I would ask, and it might seem a bit heartless, but is, do we care?
No, we don't. That's the truth. We don't. I mean, look at the actions of the Minister of Health, his predecessor, the Minister of Labor, who by some merry accident happens to be a medical doctor.
Hmm.
Their actions and statements tell you everything.
So we have seen, or there have been a lot of warnings of crisis points. Crisis points. We're going to hit a crisis point at some point, be it in our universities, be it with our medical professionals, engineering, whatever field you want to put it in. Is it until we get to the crisis point? And if, by the way,
Who
we
said we're not in a crisis point? We've been in a crisis point for a long time.
yes, but it's a
Our
crisis
health,
point that needs to be become more
our
tangible, I believe.
doctor to patient ratio is 1 to 6,500 or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, it's
That's beyond crisis points.
actually, I think NARD came out and said it was 1 to 10,000 at some point. I will have to check
Let's
that and
take.
confirm.
I'm sticking with the official figures from the World Health Organization, 1 to 6,500. That's beyond crisis point because the same World Health Organization recommends 1 to 800 or thereabouts. So 6,500 is slightly more than 800.
Okay. Ah, yes, it was the Nigerian Medical Association that said this in October that we now have one doctor to 10,000 patients. But you've already said where you're taking your figures from. I'm just putting that into the mix. Now, this was an interesting one. So I was looking through
You
this
sound like an
picture.
alarmist.
I'm just putting out the numbers as I've seen them. I'm looking at a picture that was sent in from Tally, who says,
It made the rounds in
"This
WhatsApp
is
last week.
this
Was
is a
University of Hartfordshire.
yeah, a page from graduation brochure at a UK nursing school, and looking through, there were just Nigerian names left, right, and center.
I mean, there's a joke that's is going around that if you carry a catapult and stone it into the city of Hull in the UK, that you hit a Nigerian banker.
All right, and we move on now. The next article that we'll be talking about comes in from the. Hold on, I'm actually still trying to find this now. Aha, there we go. It comes in from the Punch newspaper. UN urges federal government to probe alleged forced abortions. So, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres called on the federal government to investigate the allegation of coerced abortions, the program executed by the UN Army. So, this was through
The UN
spokesman.
has an army.
Um, did I say the UN Army? Sorry, the Nigerian Army. My apologies. UN spokesman
I'm just
Stefan.
pulling your legs.
Cheta, it's lovely to have you in on a Monday morning. UN spokesman Stefan Dujarric said on Friday that the world body was definitely interested in the matter, and I quote, "The Secretary General takes note with concern of the allegations of systemic and coerced abortions reportedly perpetrated by the Nigerian army against women and girls," and went on to say, "We call on the Nigerian authorities to fully investigate these allegations and make sure there's accountability." So we've talked on about this matter a couple of times here on Freshly Pressed, with the consensus seeming to be that it's only through international external pressure that we're going to see anything happening with regards to this. Is this enough pressure, Cheta?
Well, one of the presidential candidates, Atiku Abubakar, has said that if he wins, he will probe it.
Yeah, that's a
He's
pretty big if.
yeah, it's an if, but nevertheless, at least for those who are interested, if this is your election issue, then vote Atiku. Note is a caveat. I'm not campaigning for Atiku. I'm just saying if this is your election issue,
Mm-hmm.
then vote Atiku. That's is that not how elections work? Your
Okay,
issue. The
but
the
do we have
point
to wait until the election?
it's not going to happen under Buhari. That's the point. And see,
Just no matter if there's more pressure.
Buhari is a lame duck. In short, Buhari is a lame duck's lame duck. Because in normal democracies, when we've reached this stage where the election to remove the president who has been there for multiple terms is what they call it. If we've reached this point where you're about to remove the president who has been there for multiple terms, he becomes what they call a lame duck, which is he can't really move the needle on issues anymore. This is in normal democracies. Now juxtapose this with a president who has clearly signed out and is uninterested. Like I said, he's the lame duck's lame duck. So this is not going to happen under Buhari. You can take that to any bank and they will give you interest. So the question is, which of the three candidates, Atiku, Obi, or Tinubu, will take this seriously? Only one of them has. We keep forgetting Kwankwaso. Forgive me. Only one of them has paid lip service to the issue, at least. So that's what necessitates my statements. If this is your single issue, if you are so caught up in the rights of these girls who are alleged by Reuters to have been forcibly aborted, to have had their kids forcibly aborted, then Atiku is your man.
I just find it's mind-boggling that information like this would come out and doesn't seem to make a splash.
So the problem is away from Buhari's indifference. You could see from the reactions when I handled it on Thursday,
Mm-hmm.
and then when Ikemesit handled it on Friday, that Nigerians are overwhelmingly in support. Do I agree with the overwhelming majority of Nigerians? No, I don't. Because as Ikemesit rightfully pointed out on Thursday, this is about what the state does and the lines that the state should not cross. That's the real issue here. Mhm. But given that, I mean, at the end of the day, the saying goes Vox Populi Vox Dei. If Nigerians are overwhelmingly in support, I mean, even me, I'm still conflicted about it, even though I know about the implications from the point of view of the states. I'm still conflicted about it again, and I gave my reason on Thursday because I know what I have first-hand experience of what a girl who went through and had a child has gone through. So I get all of that. But nevertheless, if we want, see, Nigeria fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, is still a big country, at least in the African context.
Mm.
The fact that Nigeria is a big country in the African context means that it will be difficult for multilateral organizations to bully us. It means that there's some geopolitical importance to Nigeria, such that if we choose not to investigate it, and the West, because let's be honest, it's Western nations that are likely to put pressure on us to
Mm-hmm.
investigate it. If they increase pressure, we will look for friends in the East, and they themselves don't want us to look for friends in the East, so they will put up with our nonsense. It's just that's the point of geopolitical competition. So essentially, if the next president chooses to ignore this, the people who have done it will get away with it. That's just the brutal reality.
Let's take a break. When we get back, I'll be reading your messages. 0809 440 981 is the WhatsApp platform. You can go over on Twitter using the hashtag freshlypress981 or leave your comments up on the live chat, youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos.
98.1. It just feels good.
Calling Buhari a lame duck is very rude, an insult to the office of presidency and his personality. Okay. Did you? Okay, we're back in. All right, here we are on the other side going through your messages on 0801 0809 981. D from Alausa says, just like there have been previous waves of exodus, there have been consistent strikes in Nigerian universities for the past 40 years. Therefore, Cheta's research that the educational system can no longer produce qualified professionals is at best suspicious and unfounded because nothing has changed, says D from Alausa.
Unfortunately, I'm in possession of a research document that's interviewed over 100 HR managers, and 84% of them say that the quality of people that they are recruiting is falling. That is an overwhelming statement of the fact that the quality of graduates is taking a dip.
All right, Joseph Olofinkwa up on YouTube says, we are in December and behold, we are getting this kind of news. Nigeria, we hail thee. We hail thee. I hope we've been following the mass graduation of Nigerians in the UK. Now we daring, says Joseph. This one in from Ido. Okay, yes, yes. Apparently I did see that. Thank you very much. And Rose says, I'm very much in support of serious investigation of this forced abortion report. It's great hypocrisy to grant amnesty to the terrorists and abort children on the superstition that terrorism is transferred through the genes, and so defenseless babies must be killed. Fetuses. Um, the huge lie in this is glaring, says Ro. And this one from Aiku says, people who have raised issues with the lame duck appellate are clearly um, not worth responding to. He says, actually, people are allowed to have their opinions. And I'll read this one. Godwin from Bagada, I think, says, calling Buhari a lame duck is very rude, an insult to the office of the presidency and his personality. Would you like to respond, Cheta?
Yes, because God will need to write IELTS and he'll probably fail. Now, if you open a dictionary, lame duck is this. This is it's actually an English expression to
Yes.
define somebody, whether it is a president, somebody in an executive capacity who has reached a point of his tenure where he's about to leave. It's English, simple and short.
Mm.
Ah,
It's actually out there, Godwin. We didn't need the first part of that response, Cheta, but we'll take the second part. Thank you. All right, we'll move on now to this next bit of news that comes in from this day. And this is interesting because right from that story where we were talking about the what's the this administration is leaving for the future, we now have Buhari telling APC members to close ranks to avoid defeat in 2023. This coming in from this day newspaper. He spoke while receiving Katsina State's APC governorship gubernatorial candidate Dr. Diko Rada and his running mate Farouk Lawal Jobe at his Daura residence, and the president urged members of the party to unite and cooperate as a prerequisite for victory in the coming elections.
Well, for me, the story in that story is not President Buhari telling his party members to unite and cooperate. Although there's a story in what he didn't say there, which we'll come to. The story is when you move further down, and I must admit that when the producer pushed this paper in front of me to read the story, I was like, what is here? But the story is his insistence that he's not going to intervene in the elections. He keeps saying that he's going to run a free, fair election that allows everybody a right to choose and that to be credible. I think it's important that he keeps emphasizing that, so that it's a message to
Something he has
everybody.
been
Something,
doing.
yeah, something he has been doing. So that's to his credit, and as you know, I don't rate him very highly, but it's to his credit that he's doing that. The second story is in what he's not saying about that in telling his party members, "Oh, come together" and all of that. It appears that the APC is falling apart in some, and I'm using the word advisedly. It appears that. And why do I say so? For example, in Zamfara, which is next door to Katsina, Zamfara is an APC state at the moment. Yet they bulldozed an APC campaign office just a few days ago. There's clearly a faction fight happening there, and we're
Mm.
hearing all sorts of stories. So the difference between the APC and the PDP in this respect is that the PDP's factions are out there in the open. Wike is clearly Wike and his menagerie are clearly trying their level best to sabotage the PDP campaign.
There's no cover on that. It's
Yeah.
very out there in the
While,
open.
while the APC's own is whispers we keep hearing. And for me, if I were an APC supporter, I would actually be more be frightened about that, because it is easier to handle it's easier to handle people who are not fifth columnists. You can see them in the open.
Mm.
But when they are fifth columnists smiling at you and all of that, but behind daggers are drawn, it's difficult to handle.
Is this something that would have a major impact on 2023?
It could. It's really could have an impact if the ruling party descends into chaos. That will have an impact. Yes.
Interesting. Oh, wow. There's really a whole conversation going on about lame duck, but people, what I'll do is read out what Michael Adetutu sent in. A politician or administration in the final period of office after the election of a successor. There you go. That's all I'll read out with regards to that. Thank you. And oh, this message from FS. Thank you very much for sending that in, asking, isn't there a correlation between poor graduate turnouts and people not knowing the meaning of certain phrases? This one
I
in
agree.
from
FS, I owe you a beer.
this one in from Victor Shion, who says the Reuters report is very heartbreaking. However, we shouldn't forget that it's in this same country that 200 girls were kidnapped in broad daylight and yet nothing happened. The value placed on human life in Nigeria seems intangible, going by the attitude of this government to its citizens. But also, you have to remember, government is from the people, and also we need to look at the people's reaction to certain things. So we may not expect anything more given to unborn children from circumstances of rape by Boko Haram terrorists. You wanted to say something,
Yeah,
Cheta?
I wanted to piggyback on a point that you just made, and it's a very solid point. The government comes from the people, and our attitude to other human beings in this country. I think our attitude to other human beings is encapsulated by the Danfo bus. When the Danfo bus rolls off the assembly line,
Mhm.
it's a 14-seater normal comfortable seat for human beings to sit on. And then what do we do? Our people take it before it goes into service. They remove the comfortable seats and put wooden benches that are very hard to the butts. That is the exact definition of how we treat people in this country. We don't care about human beings. So it's not a surprise that it's proliferates upwards to the governments.
What I would say is that for the growth of a nation, we need to look much further than our own front door or even our community's gates, because a nation is made up of people who are not just like you, different from you, but all under the same banner. And something that I have noticed on this show, dealing with some of the elements in this show, especially when people call in, is with regards to what we see as, if something doesn't concern us, then it doesn't concern us, even though it does in the wider sense concern us. If you know, you know. No PVC, no vote. INEC tells electorate. That one in from the Premium Times. We've got a couple of minutes, Cheta. Delve into this.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I think that they're just speaking. No PVC, no votes is something that we all know. That's why people have been registering. The question for me, the onus is on INEC to ensure that everybody who has registered has gotten their PVCs. And in a survey that we did between 27th of June and 1st of July, it showed that a lot of people who had registered this last period hadn't gotten their PVCs. About 41% of people had successfully picked up their PVCs back then. So the onus is on INEC to ensure that the remaining 59% get their PVCs. All the stories that we keep hearing of people going to INEC offices and being told to come back that there are no PVCs, their PVCs are not ready, or stories that we are seeing of batches of PVCs just lying on the street somewhere in rural Owerri. That's a problem. So INEC shouldn't be backing at people no PVCs, no votes.
And
What
also, by
INEC
the way,
ought to do is ensure that everybody gets their PVCs.
and also, we're also looking at the attacks on the various INEC offices, which does have an
It
impact
has
on
it
this
has an
as
impact,
well.
but the number of attacks on INEC offices is not enough to push that needle. I in my own opinion, I think this is also something that speaks to the infrastructural deficits in the country and our lack of proper identity management, because the right thing to do really should be people should be able to register for their PVCs from the comfort of their home and then have it posted back to them.
Oh, and I would have liked to take this next story. Let's see if we can do it in very quickly from the Punch. Reps fume say governors still divert local government funds.
The reps are right in this respect, but they are the ones who make the laws, so they need to make they need to push for an adjustment so that oh yeah, it's already in the works. And one of the states that voted against it is Lagos. Basically, we need to have a constitutional amendment where local governments can get their money direct from the federal government or direct from Arumafak.
I will take this final message from WhatsApp. Fabian from Macbeth says the attitude of Nigerians to circumstances has been numbed, modified, or altered by the leaders and elders. Oh, you deleted it. All right, we move on to this one
Fabian, no
from
more me,
Jennifer.
yeah.
From Jennifer, who says, we went to the INEC office at Igboefo and Lekki. We were told that our PVCs were not printed, no information as to whether we would still be able to get them before the election. All right, we've come to the end of the show. Cheta, thank you very much for joining me today. You can find him. He is on Twitter at Chickster. He is on Instagram at Chickster_B. Go find him. Go check out what he posts. And that's it. Coming up, 8:15, it is going to be a world of sports inside the locker room. You know we're going to be talking Morocco. I'm very excited. I can't wait.
That's in pay me die.
Not me. Not me. Oh, this is the wrong one.
You first.
Sorry.
Bang.
It wasn't supposed to happen. All right. Thank you very much, YouTube. The conversation is still
Have you uploaded
laying down.
YouTube?
No, I haven't. I'm about to do that. Where did everybody go behind the scenes? Bye.